Yes, that is a conspiracy. I would hope that you would agree with that. Is that controversial?
I know why you're here. Why we are all here.
Thank you for joining me. This is a very special report. We're just down to the neck here, hours before the election tomorrow. Hopefully this video gets up before then and the results are tallied, because this video might actually have an impact. First thing you do, if you looked at this video, know my channel at all, please stop right now and share this video to 5 different people and ask them to do the same. This needs to go viral. I'll distribute it as best I can on all my social media sites, but help me out here, because this information, a lot of it, I think needs to get out there. Even the doubt of it needs to get out there, because it's information. Now, back to the point at hand. We have 2 presidential candidates that can win this race, this election in 2016, Hillary Rodham Clinton and Donald J. Trump. I don't actually know his name. Anyway, those 2 candidates are running for president of the United States. A lot of people fall into 2 or 3 categories, or maybe 4. The never Trump, never Hillary, and never either of them, and then only third party. But there's probably more categories. Anyway, we know a lot about Donald Trump because he has pushed himself into the limelight a lot. He hasn't been running for politics, but we know him. And it's very easy to look things up about him, find out who he is as a person, what he did in his history, and then compare and contrast that to Hillary Rodham Clinton, who a lot of us don't bother to get to know, because a lot of the times, the only time you see something about a politician most of the time is when they're running for re-election. And unless it's a presidential campaign, the tongue slinging is to a minimum, hopefully, but it's not as bad as when somebody's running for president. So we're going to dive into 25 years of the Clinton history and what accusations, charges, and other things have happened to them, and see how bad Hillary really is. Because if she's as bad, even half as bad as people say she is, she cannot be the president of the United States, and there is no way around that. And the only way to prevent her from getting the presidency would be to vote for Donald J. Trump. Now let's see. Number 1, when she was first lady, she murdered White House lawyer Vince Foster and then dumped his body in a park. Number 2, she drove Vince Foster to commit suicide through her temper tantrums. She was having an affair with Vince Foster. She's a lesbian. I don't know if I believe number 4. Chelsea isn't Bill Clinton's child. Number 5. That wouldn't be a surprise. Now, this Vince Foster, at first glance, I was like, wait, this must be a conspiracy theory. I had to double check this. I don't know if there was any charges actually filed, but there was a lot of a cloud of controversy surrounding this Vince Foster and the involvement with Hillary Clinton. She murdered Vince Foster to cover up that she once bought a tract of undeveloped land in Arkansas and lost money. She murdered Vince Foster to cover up her role in firing the White House travel department. She murdered Vince Foster. After she murdered Vince Foster, she ransacked his office in the middle of the night and stole all the documents proving her guilt. Number 9. When Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas, she was a partner in the state's law firm, and it sometimes did work involving the state government. Conflict of interest much? She once invested in commodities future on advice of a friend and made $100,000, proving she's a crook. And she once did the same with real estate and lost $100,000, also proving she's a crook. Unnamed and unverified sources have told Peggy Nolan that things about the Clintons that are simply too terrible to repeat. Now, I can only assume what that is, but with the new emails, we find out that a lot of information. I don't know if anybody knows who John Podesta is. You should stop right now and look him up. Really look him up, because this guy is one of those guys who likes to have very artistic photos of nude children in his home. And they buried this in one of the main papers. They didn't really report on it because they don't want you to know about John Podesta. But if you don't know John Podesta, maybe you know Anthony Weiner. And Anthony Weiner likes to sex little kids, 15-year-old girls. Now, if Hillary's fine with somebody like that, or somebody like, what's her name? Medine? No. Some weird name. I just completely drew a blank. But she's part of the Muslim Brotherhood, and her mother is like really into some crazy crap, and you should look into that as well. And Anthony Weiner's ex-wife is the one I'm talking about. The personnel murdered at Benghazi make her the first Secretary of State to lose overseas personnel to terrorism, apart from Cody Rice, Colin Powell, and Medine Albright, George Shultz, Dean Rusk, and some others. Well, 4 State Department staff were murdered at Benghazi, compared with only 119 others murdered overseas under every other Secretary of State combined since World War II. She illegally sent classified emails from her personal server, except that apparently they weren't classified at the time. She may have cynically wriggled around the email law by technically complying with it. She once signed a lucrative book contract when she was a private citizen. Donald Trump says she should be in jail. Then he's a serial bankrupt casino. Okay. This is also an anti-Donald Trump article, apparently. Serial bankrupt casino developer in Atlantic City. This anti-Trump tidbit is actually being debunked because he was a owner of a company who had a subsidiary with a partner of another subsidiary, yada yada type thing, and it went bankrupt. He did not actually go bankrupt. One of the companies he was working with or through, it's very complicated. Look it up and find out for yourself, because they like to oversimplify things and make it look like he's just as bad. He's not. Former House Majority Leader Tom Daley says his law enforcement sources tell him that she is about to be indicted, and if a man once convicted of money laundering and conspiracy doesn't have good law enforcement sources, who does? Yeah, but they dropped it. So she's a hard left radical who wants to break up the nuclear family. Well, we know that's been going on for a while. She's a conservative mousewife who refuses to break up her own family. She's in favor of single moms. She refused to be a single mom. When she was First Lady of Arkansas, she pandered to conservative voters by dyeing her hair. Before that, she totally insulted them by refusing to. She's a frump. She spends too much money on designer dresses. She has kinkles. She has a grating voice. She yells into the microphone. She spent 18 years in Arkansas, and some of the people she knew turned out to be crazy rednecks and crooks. She's in the pay of the mafia. She's in the pay of Chinese government. She's in the pay of Wall Street banks. In order to suppress the billing records from her time at Rose Law Firm in Little Rock, she cleverly packed them up and took them to the White House rather than shredding them. Now, I'm going to say that a lot of times you can tell what's true and what's not simply by looking at the information. Looking here, the more information that's given, the more likely it is that you can find out if it's true. So if logically people go and put up stuff like she's in pay of the mafia, where, when, during what period of time, Chinese government, same questions, Wall Street banks, same questions. Now, you can look these up and see if you find more information, but just from this article alone, the ones with more information are more credible, in my opinion. So this person could have done better writing this article. When she handed over the documents to public officials, they couldn't find any evidence she committed any crime, so she must have doctored them. Congress spent tens of millions of dollars in 6 years investigating her investment in Whitewater real estate project, and while they didn't actually find anything, they would have spent all the money if they weren't. They wouldn't have spent all the money if there weren't something there. By cleverly hiding all evidence of her crimes in Whitewater, she caused Congress to waste all the taxpayers' money. When she ran for senator of New York, she was still a fan of the Chicago Cubs. Some of this has absolutely no bearing on anything. Saul Alinsky. This one's true, and I've verified this, or found verification of it. She's a secret follower of radical prophet Saul Alinsky. That's not good. You need to look him up if you don't know. You should look him up if you have time. Just bills allow him to keep pushing. She's married to a sex addict. Enemy of traditional marriage. She didn't divorce her husband. She looked bored during the Benghazi hearing. She said, what does it matter that these American men and women don't get to come home to their families? Now, she didn't say that, but that's the implication of what she did say. Now, some of the stuff that's not on the list is, like I said, Bethesda. Her and Bill have both gone to Bethesda's Island, and there's talk of whether or not code talk, like, I like hot dogs more than hamburgers. Can we get more hot dogs? Like, that's stuff you don't really care about. You tell your aide to tell a person you're going to if you're that high up in the government. Why would you talk about that? Unless you were actually saying, yeah, I want more girls than boy kids. That's the allegation, that there are code breakers that say that's what the code is. It's classic pedophilia code. And that's what's scary. And Bill has been there 20 times. Hillary's been there 6. Do you really want these type of people protecting your children's rights? I mean, it's bad enough in this society that people who commit sexual acts against minors get basically slaps on the wrist. Here's some probation or parole. You know, you did a little bit of time in jail, you're good. They don't care. And a lot of times people think, oh, it's too much to put a kid through that. Then you're telling that kid it's okay. I'm sorry, this is going to be a tangent if I go on that road. Bottom line, share this video. Check out the truth about Hillary. Look really deep into Hillary's past and find out what she did. Because the recent history, we have Benghazi, the cover-up of Benghazi, the lying about Benghazi, the fact that she could have did something and she didn't. She is the most god-awful, worst woman that could be elected president. Any woman would be better. Just pick one off the street, I'd vote for her over Hillary. Because Hillary hasn't got a clue. She wants to do this foreign policy where she's going to put no-fly zones encroaching on Russian territory. And it's like, really? If we shoot down one of the Russian jets, you think they're just, well, that's fine. It's cool. We're cool. No, they're going to get pissed. This election is more important than any one of us or our political beliefs. We have to suck it up and make the decision with this and none of this. You think with your heart. You think with emotion. Not love, emotion. It also be love, but emotion is what I'm talking about. Think logically rather than emotionally. Because if you think emotionally, you're not going to make a sound decision. If you're really angry and you're driving, you know it has an influence on your driving. Everybody does. It's called road rage. That's why we have it. When you're really sad, it could affect your movement and behavior. It also affects your decisions. Little bits of them. And if you keep letting that affect your decisions, you'll never make a good decision. Check out my other videos. Rate, comment, subscribe, and share, share, share. Hillary Clinton cannot be the next president of the United States, no matter what happens. We need freedom and liberty more than we need safety and security, because with freedom and liberty come safety and security, but not vice versa. I believe it was Jefferson who said that those who would desire safety and security over liberty and freedom would deserve nor get either. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a wonderful night, and God bless America.